Welcome. Your thoughts quiet. Tonight, we journey far back in time across the vast whispering steppes of Central Asia, into the heart of the largest land empire the world has ever known, the Mongol Empire, a name often conjuring images of galloping horsemen, storming armies, and burning cities. But what comes after the conquest? What of the quieter lives lived under the shadow of the Great Khan? This episode gently peels away the thunderous myths to explore a more subdued but equally fascinating story of life under Mongol rule. The dust-covered roads of imperial logistics, the whispered prayers of those taxed to their limits, the strange rituals of a forgotten capital, and the silk-draped lives of women who ruled from yurts. In the hours ahead, we will wander slowly, from the saddle of an exhausted tax collector to the bloodless corridors of fallen Baghdad, to the stone turtles of Karakorum and the embroidered robes of a noblewoman resting in the breeze of the steppe. So close your eyes or keep them half-lidded if you wish. Allow yourself to drift. There is nothing to do now but listen, and perhaps slowly to sleep. Let's begin with the long, lonely life of a Mongol tax collector. Imagine yourself riding alone across the open steppe. There is no road, only the faintest trace of hoofprints in the flattened grass and the wind. Always the wind pulling at your robe, tugging at your scarf, and carrying with it the dry, whispering voices of those long forgotten. Your horse is weary, so are you. You've been traveling for 3 days now. Between settlements that barely mark the map, if they appear at all, you are a tax collector in the service of the Great Khan. But that title, Darugachi, is not a grand one. It means you are responsible for quotas, for reports, for grain and goats and silver and hides. You collect from the frightened, the tired, the bitter. From villagers who stare at you in silence, whose eyes carry a mix of fear and disdain. Your orders come from above, from a system so vast and multilingual that it sometimes takes weeks just to understand what is being asked of you. The imperial scribes in Karakorum write in Uyghur script. Your orders are sealed with the black ink of the Khan's authority, but they must be read aloud to you by an interpreter. Perhaps in Persian, perhaps in Chinese, perhaps even in Latin, if you're near the western borderlands. You carry 3 languages in your mouth, but none of them perfectly. You arrive in a village by dusk. It is small, barely a dozen wooden huts, clustered near a frozen stream. Chickens scatter as you dismount. A boy stares at your boots. No one greets you. Not immediately. They've seen men like you before. Inside the village chief's hut, it is warm but silent. You sit cross-legged on a thick felt rug as millet porridge is placed before you. No meat. Not this time. You eat slowly, silently aware that the family is watching your every bite. After the meal, the ledgers come out. Worn parchment, splintering charcoal. You go through the lists. 4 goats short. It's 2 sacks of barley instead of 5. No wool cloth at all. The quota is not met, not even close. You're not allowed to punish them. That is not your role, but you must report them. You know what may follow. The next time, it may not be you who arrives. It may be a man in darker robes with soldiers at his side and chains in his cart. You say nothing. You just write. The brush strokes are slow, deliberate, and each mark on the page weighs like stone. Sleep is thin on the steppe. At night, the wind howls around the wooden frame of the hut. You lie awake on a rough mat, staring at the shadowy ceiling. You wonder if the figures you saw were telling the truth or hiding their goods. You wonder if your report will doom them or spare them. You are not cruel, only tired. There is no glory here, only dust and rules and repetition. In the morning, you rise early. Another village awaits, another round of bartering, of counting sacks and tallying sheep. You pack your writing tools into your saddlebag. You check your maps drawn on stretched hide, marked with faint ink and scent of old oil. These are not roads, they're suggestions. You ride again. The sun rises behind you, casting long shadows that stretch into the endless grass. You are alone with the silence, with the hum of wind and hooves, and the endless calculations running through your mind. You are not a warrior. You are not a noble. You are not remembered in songs. You are a tax collector, beneath the blue sky of the Mongol Empire, and you are very, very tired. As the wind carries you forward, let us now turn from the dry pages of tax reports to a moment of profound, irreversible change. In our next segment, we revisit a city that once stood as a beacon of learning and luxury until the Mongols came. When you're ready, we'll explore the fall of Baghdad. A slow and somber descent into one of history's quietest catastrophes. Imagine, for a moment, the slow-moving hush before a storm. A city of libraries, domes, and fragrant markets. Under a gray sky, heavy with something unsaid. It is the winter of 1258, and Baghdad, once called the jewel of the world, stands on the brink. But the city does not yet know it. Or perhaps, it does. This is not the Mongol Empire at the height of its explosive conquests. It is an empire settled, increasingly bureaucratic, and no longer chasing only war, but also control. And Baghdad? Baghdad is a city of prestige, a symbolic capital of the Islamic world. The home of the Abbasid Caliph, a figure not merely political, but sacred. And so, when Hulagukin brother to the great Khan monkey approaches with an army, he does not march blindly, he writes. A message is sent. Stern, clear, deliberate. Liberate, it says. Asterisk, and you will be spared. Resist, and your people will know ruin. The Caliph replies, but not with surrender. His response is curt, proud. He believes the city's centuries-old glory will protect it. But glory is not armor. You are a scribe. Living in a modest quarter of Baghdad, your world is one of ink and parchment, of long, quiet hours copying the verses of scholars long gone.
You hear rumors?
Yes, of horsemen with siege engines, of fire. But the city has stood for 500 years. It is unthinkable that it would fall in a day, or even a month. Still, supplies begin to run thin. Refugees trickle in from the outer towns. The markets are tense, the air changes. When the Mongols arrive, it is not with screaming, it is not with flame. Not at first. They surround the city in a methodical ring. Engineering tools are laid out like a surgeon preparing for an operation. Wooden frames are built, stones are stacked. Oil is prepared. The siege begins, quietly, and it continues that way. Slow, patient, inevitable. Inside the city, life becomes muffled, the streets empty, the great mosques are quiet. Scholars whisper among themselves, some arguing to fight, others praying to negotiate, but the window to talk is closed. The walls of Baghdad, once thought to be strong, begin to give way. Trebuchets knock open gates, tunnels are dug, and on the 10th day of February, the Mongols enter. We do not linger on what followed, not out of denial but mercy. We know that the rivers ran dark, some say from blood, some say from the ink of the great libraries, perhaps both. We know the House of Wisdom, one of the greatest centers of learning in human history, ceased to exist in mere hours. We know the Caliph, once adorned in silks and gold thread, was quietly wrapped in a carpet and disappeared from the world. But what we focus on is the silence that came after. Baghdad emptied of its sound, of its bustling streets, of its scholarly debates, of the warm smell of spices from the tanner's quarter. Gone. And in that emptiness came a strange kind of order. The Mongols were not conquerors who vanished after victory. They installed governors, translated texts, reopened trade. Life oddly resumed. But it was a life changed forever. You return to your scribe's bench, in a new, unfamiliar city, one where the call to prayer feels distant, and the voices in the market are now speaking Mongolian and Persian, not just Arabic, where old traditions still stir, but only in whispers. The fall of Baghdad was not just a military conquest, it was a turning of the page. One chapter of the Islamic Golden Age closed quietly under a Mongol moon, and so we leave Baghdad behind, its towers dimmed, its waters stilled, lost, and we travel now to another battle, but to the soft ruins of a forgotten capital. Stone foundations buried under soil and centuries. Let us now explore the curious city of Karakorum, the once beating heart of an empire built on horseback. Now imagine the endless grasslands again. This time, at their very center, something rises, not a yurt or a campfire, but stone, smooth, cold, deliberate. Welcome to Karakorum. A name seldom spoken now, yet once the very heart of the Mongol Empire. Not a battlefield, not a fortress, but a city born from conquest, yet built for governance, for memory, the legacy. Karakorum did not rise with speed or splendor. It grew slowly, like a shadow stretching outward beneath the steppe sky. One felt it more than saw it. You arrived by caravan. The journey has been long weeks across unbroken grass, your oxen pulling slowly under the weight of silk, ink, and carved wood. You carry gifts from the Song dynasty. You carry instructions from Persia. You carry hope and worry. Then, on the horizon, you see it. Not tall spires, not grand gates, but low walls of gray stone, earth-packed roads, and a scattering of tiled roofs, half buried by wind-blown dust. And at its center, a stone turtle, massive, unmoving, and silent. It rests beneath the open sky, carved from granite, its back inscribed with long-dead names. It does not mark a tomb, but a memory, a reminder that even empire eventually is weighed upon the earth. Karakorum was a crossroads, not just of geography, but of cultures. Its artisans were Chinese, its scribes were Uyghur, its engineers came from Iran, and its ruler spoke in the clipped, direct tones of the steppe, where the world met in quiet negotiation. Stone buildings stood beside yurts. Silks from India were folded next to furs from Siberia. In the same hall, Buddhist monks, Nestorian priests, and Muslim scholars debated slowly over tea, each pausing for translation. This was the city of Gedai Khan, Genghis Khan's third son, who ruled not by sword but by schedule. He built roads, established postal stations, designed markets where goods were weighed, taxed, and moved with chilling efficiency. And yet, Karakorum never swelled like other capitals. It was modest, plain, almost temporary. You walk its streets and they feel unfinished. Here is a smithy hammering iron in the Mongolian wind. There a low-walled temple, its incense long blown away. And in the marketplace, a scribe inscribes laws on parchment, in 4 scripts for 4 different nations. Everything is quiet, purposeful, bare. Archaeologists, many centuries later, would dig through this silence. They would find the remnants of tiled palaces, the faint impression of a grand stupa, and fragments of glazed pottery Chinese but made locally. They would find animal bones beneath cooking pits, tools, coins from places far beyond the steppe, the outlines of a city not built to impress, but to endure. They would also find that the city did not last. When Kublai Khan moved the capital to what would become Beijing, Karakorum was left behind, slowly swallowed by the land. Today it is a scattering of mounds near the Orkhan River. Only the stone turtles remain silent, unmoving, half buried beneath grass and time. And yet the memory lingers, because Karakorum was never meant to be eternal. It was a pause, a place for an empire to catch its breath, to record names, issue decrees, and make maps that would redraw the world. A place where horsemen learned the weight of law, and where the wind carried not just the sound of hooves, but the voices of rulers trying to imagine what came after conquest. As you walk back through the fading ruins, you might run your hand along one of the old stone foundations, cool to the touch, like and soft. Almost forgotten, but not quite. Now, as the breeze stirs the tall grass one last time, we turn away from palaces and roads, and shift our gaze to something more intimate, more human. Let us now spend a quiet day with a Mongol noblewoman, her silks fluttering against the open sky, her footsteps light within the felt-lined halls of a moving home. You have walked in the shoes of a Mongol princess, you've roamed through medieval India as an empress, but now our time travels through worlds must end. Yet we have one last glimpse into history, one final memory to record. And now the wind softens. The air grows still. There are no cities here, no stone walls, only wide plains, a rising sun, and a circular home of felt and wood, glowing gently in the morning light. This is not a battlefield, nor a palace. It is a gur, or yurt, the heart of a Mongol noblewoman's world. Not a warrior, yet powerful. Not cloistered, yet always watched. Imagine yourself inside her morning. The felt walls block most of the chill. The fire in the center has been tended since before sunrise. The pot hangs above it, heating gently. You can smell sour milk and barley, the soft scent of horsehair rope, and the faintest trace of rose oil from her robes. She rises slowly. There is no loud command. No bell to summon servants. She is not a queen, but her husband is a Noea prince, a commander of Tumans. He is away for now, overseeing horses or meeting with envoys. This camp, this household, belongs to her while he is gone. She dresses deliberately layer by layer, sleeved tunic of dyed silk, a vest of thick cotton, embroidered with geometric patterns, a wide belt, clasped with a silver buckle. Her head wrap, a careful construction of cloth and pins, settles on her brow like a crown of quiet authority. Outside the yurt, the camp is stirring. Children chase goats. Attendants prepare bowls of fermented mare's milk. A falcon, hooded and resting, waits on its perch. She steps out, her boots sinking slightly into the earth. She checks the grain storage herself. She oversees the meat drying racks. She speaks with the steward of the camp not hurriedly, but thoroughly. This is not idleness. The Mongol noblewoman runs logistics, not just a household. She approves travel plans, organizes trade goods. She knows how many horses are healthy, how many were lost last week to wolves. She understands routes, rations, and rainfall. And she carries the seal of her absent husband. With it, she may issue orders, receive tributes, settle disputes. By midday, she welcomes visitors. A merchant from Samarkand arrives, bringing silk from China and lapis from the mountains. They sit on cushions within the yurt. Tea is served, poured slowly from a tall, curved pot. They speak of fabric quality, of road bandits, of how dry the winter has been. Each word is measured. Hospitality is ritual. Politeness is armor. The noblewoman listens more than she speaks, but her questions are precise. She may not ride into war, but she shapes the empire's pulse. One trade agreement, one grain ledger at a time. Later, she tends to her children. They are not taught idleness. Even the youngest learns to ride, to string a bow, to recite lineage back for generations. She tells them stories, not of dragons or heroes, but of ancestors, of weather, of how to read the stars above the steppe. Their lullabies are in a minor key. They speak of wind, of horses lost, of gods who whisper through the grass. And as dusk falls, the camp gathers, not for feasting. Not today, but for silence, for warmth, for the simple act of being together beneath the endless sky. She sits at the center of the yurt, spinning wool by firelight. Her earrings glint, her voice is low. She does not speak often. When she does, others fall still. Outside, the horses stamp softly. The banners flutter in the breeze. And overhead, the stars return sharp, innumerable and clear. She lies down last, after the others. Her role is not simply noble. It is enduring, quiet, woven into the rhythm of the empire. And so we leave her here, wrapped in layered blankets, eyes slowly closing, in a home that will be packed and moved come morning, because that is the truth of her life, always in motion, yet always constant, a pillar beneath the sky. As the night deepens over the steppes, let us now draw inward as well, toward the close of this journey. It has been a long road from the sands of Arabia to the peaks of Tibet. Across time and space, we have met some unforgettable people along the way. We have traded with spice merchants in Baghdad, traded spices in India, and followed scholars through Chinese streets. Along the way, we've encountered great conquerors, Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, and Tamerlane. We've seen how they forged empires from the steppes of Mongolia to the peaks of Persia. We've followed Silk Road caravans and braved bandits, storms and shifting sands. We've learned the ways of pilgrims and watched empires rise and fall. We've bartered with Buddhist monks, wrangled camels, deciphered ancient texts, and even gazed at the stars alongside nomadic tribes. Now, our journey ends where it began with you. All around us are reminders of the past. Coins and ceramics, weapons and textiles, each whispering tales of those who came before. Here in the great Khan's capital, memories seem to linger on the breeze. We hear echoes of imperial banquets and bustling trade. Yet history is never simply about the grand events. It's also about the everyday lives of ordinary people. In this course, we've met merchants, artisans, princes, farmers, rulers, and rogues. We've seen how they lived, how they worked, how they dreamed and schemed, how they struggled and succeeded. In their stories, we've glimpsed the true heart of the Pax Mongolica. More than just peace, it was a vibrant exchange of ideas, cultures, and goods across Eurasia. Today, we're left with a quiet contemplation of our own. What have we learned from these histories? How have these stories changed the way we see the world? And how might they inspire us to explore even further? The past is never truly gone. It's a living, breathing part of our present. As we finish our journey, we carry these stories within us, ready to share them with others. Let the echoes of our discoveries resonate in our own lives, reminding us of the interconnectedness of all people and the enduring power of human curiosity. So let us pause, reflect on all that we've seen and heard, and carry these stories in our hearts, wherever our own journeys may take us next. Thank you for joining me on this adventure. If you enjoyed this journey through time, I invite you to join me on my channel, where we continue to bring history to life. Click here to see more. Remember, history is not just something that happened in the past. It's a story that continues to shape our world today. Until our next adventure, stay curious. Thank you for joining me on this journey through time. If you enjoyed this episode, I invite you to join me on my channel, where we continue to bring history to life. Click here to see more. And remember, history is not just something that happened in the past. It's a story that continues to shape our world today. Till our next adventure, stay curious. Welcome back to the final episode of our crash course on the Mongol Empire. And now we come to the end of our journey. From dust-choked roads to quiet yurts, from broken cities to forgotten capitals, we have wandered slowly, softly through the world the Mongols ruled, not at its height of chaos, but in its settled quiet. A quiet that pulsed beneath control, beneath law, beneath the ever-changing sky. We began as a tired tax collector, balancing ink and obligation, trudging from village to village under the weight of expectations and maps. We then stood, silently, at the edge of a city, Baghdad, and watched it fall not in fire, but in history. A turning of the page, the end of something long and golden. Next, we brushed dust from ancient stones, whispering to us from the ruins of Karakorum, place built for memory, not glory. Finally, we stepped lightly through the daily rhythm of a noblewoman's camp, guided not by conquest, but by quiet control, gentle order, and silken strength. And through it all, there was the wind.
The grass.
The slow rise and fall of breath beneath a sky that has not changed. That same sky watches you now. In this world we've left behind, everything was in motion. Armies, caravans, horses, laws, but now you do not have to move. You can simply lie still and let history pass by like a distant caravan. Its wheels creaking, its bells muffled, its voices lost in the wind. But before you go, if you want to review what we've covered, check out the review videos for each episode by clicking on the cards above or by going to the playlist. You can also catch up on any episodes you might have missed. Don't forget you can keep learning with additional resources. To prepare for episode 1, read about the steppe and watch videos about Genghis Khan. To prepare for episode 2, read about Baghdad and watch videos about the Abbasid Caliphate and the Crusades. To prepare for episode 3, read about China and watch a video about the Song Dynasty. For episode 4, read about Russia and watch a video about Kievan Rus. For episode 5, read about Persia and watch a video about the Seljuks. For episode 6, read about India and watch a video about Delhi Sultanate. For episode 7, read about Korea and watch a video about the Goryeo dynasty. For episode 8, read about Japan and watch a video about samurai. And for episode 9, read about the Silk Roads and watch a video about Pax Mongolica. As you reflect on what you learned throughout this course, consider how each region was affected by interactions with the Mongols, and what those effects were like for the people who lived there. Also consider how historians shape our understanding of the Mongols and their empire. Now that you've had a chance to look at this massive empire from different angles, what do you think? Did the Mongols leave the world better or worse than they found it? Was it worth it for them to try to rule everything? How does the Mongol Empire compare to other empires you've studied? Think about the ways that they are similar and different. How did the Mongol Empire shape your own story? How does it connect to your identity, to the places you live or have lived, or to the people you know or have known? Write down some answers to these questions to help you get ready for episode 10. And remember to use complete sentences. The Mongols didn't just conquer a big chunk of the known world. They created a new global culture and economy along the way. And you can start learning about it right now with this episode's additional resources. First, check out the music video for The Great Khan by Baron B and Jake Heggie, which will help you get to know Genghis Khan and his rise to power. Then read a poem called Save Us From Our Friends by Dorothy Margaret Salmon, which is a great reminder that there were many perspectives on the Mongol invasions. It was dangerous for anyone to support them or oppose them. But you may want to reread A Description of the Mongols by William of Rubrach, an account written by a European who traveled to meet the Mongols and had a very different experience than what he was expecting. These texts come from the Mongol Empire and Islamic world in transition, which is where we're getting a lot of our sources for this series. This book is a great resource if you want to dive deeper into the topic. If you want to keep watching, the next episode in the series is available. If you want to watch that next episode, click the link on the screen. If you want to keep learning, check out the additional resources. Thanks for watching. Welcome to the Shadowlands. Here, flickering lamplight does little to pierce the pervasive gloom. Above, shadows stretch and contort from the few passers, brave enough to venture out after sunset. Here, in this forgotten corner of ancient Rome, darkness is absolute. And within its suffocating grip, our senses slowly dull to the city's clamor. For a moment, all is still. Only the ceaseless drip of an unseen fountain intrudes upon the silence. Then from the shadows, the faintest of sounds begins to rise. At first barely audible above the oppressive quiet, then growing ever so slightly louder, like the creaking of a floorboard beneath a careful footfall. Now more sure, now even approaching. A heavy footstep echoes off the wet stone. Another follows, and another, and the sound of raindrops hitting flagstones abruptly stops. 3 pairs of sandals have come to rest outside our door. 3 pairs that belonged to men, and 3 pairs that did not. One was Marcus, a thin young man whose back buckled under his father's cruel lash. He had been beaten for pilfering small change from customers at the mill where he ground grain by hand. His punishment was not for personal gain, no, but for the sake of his little sister, whose cough grew ever worse and whose fever never broke. How could he bear to hear her cry out for water when their mother was out working? When their father slept, drinking his woes away? When Marcus himself was supposed to be grinding grain? So while the master slept, Marcus stole a few coins from the till. His father, upon hearing of the theft, lashed out, beating him until blood ran down his arms and pooled at his feet. Then he sent Marcus out into the night to retrieve the money. How much pride he had once felt as a grain merchant's son. As the only one of 4 boys born to his father in this cramped room with peeling paint and walls slick with damp. Now that life stretched bleakly before him, if his father found out about the theft, he would throw him out into the street to fend for himself. Now cloaked in the deepest shadows, he hurried home. Across the hall, 2 doors down, a woman stirs from her slumber. She is Cornelia, her name. And she has been a widow since the Great Plague swept through Rome 5 years ago, taking her husband and her 2 children. Since then, she had done odd jobs for neighbors, sweeping floors and mending clothes. Whatever she could do to keep food on the table and make ends meet, she rises from her straw pallet and walks over to the window. Peeking out into the dark, she sees Marcus slip inside his family's room. What she doesn't see is that his sister's fever has spiked. Again. And that her mother has just come home from her shift at the tavern with only wine and empty words. Cornelia feels a pang of sympathy for the young girl. She remembers how bright-eyed and bushy-tailed her own boy had been when he set out to help his father sell figs in the forum. She recalls how her husband would bring her fresh figs from the market, how they would eat them together on the roof in the warm afternoon light. Fig season is upon us now, she thinks, and my boys will eat their fill. She turns away from the window, not seeing the shadow of the peddler as he approaches his own room, his basket laden with figs fresh from the field. On the other side of the hall, a deep voice rumbles awake. It belongs to a gladiator named Titus. Once a slave captured in Spain, spent 5 years training in the brutal schools of Capua, learning how to fight with a net and a trident. After his master died, he was sold to Rome, where he fought in the great amphitheater, earning the admiration of crowds and the scorn of his fellow gladiators, most of whom thought him barbaric because he wouldn't kill his fellow Romans in the arena. Still, he had been forced to kill dozens of men to send many good and innocent men to their deaths. To this day, he can still hear their ghosts screaming in the depths of his soul. What respite can he find here in his dingy room without windows, save for a hole hacked into the wall to admit light and air? At least there are no chains here. That's something. With a grunt, he swings his legs over the side of his bed and heads toward the door. As he passes by Cornelia's room, he nods in greeting, and she offers him a shy smile in return. Every time Titus goes out, Cornelia prays that he doesn't return with fresh scars or a broken body. And every time he comes home, she rushes to the window to see if he is limping. Every time he returns, he brings her fresh figs from the market. But tonight, Titus's face is long and drawn. The fig harvest has been poor and supplies are low. Tonight, he tells her, I've had to ration, but I'll bring you what I have. When he knocks on her door, Cornelia lets him in and gives him a blanket to sit on. They eat in silence for a while, the only sounds their crunching teeth and the drip, drip, drip of the fountain. Finally, Cornelia breaks the quiet. Tell me, Titus, how is it out there? How is it in the arena? How do people die? People die in many ways, he says. Some quick, some not so quick. One gladiator sheathed his sword in the other's chest and walked away. He took his time dying. Another fell from the top of the temple. That was a quick death, though his screams echoed in my ears for days afterward. Do people scream when they die? Sometimes, but not always. Some die quietly. Cornelia shivered. Does anyone ever regret dying in the arena? No, says Titus. Not if he's dead. But I sometimes think of those men in my waking hours, and I pray that I don't see them in my dreams. Cornelia nods in understanding. Dreams can be troubled things, she says. Did you have a troubled dream last night? I dreamt of a forest, Titus replies. It was filled with trees as dark as night and as tall as mountains. Ow. Their branches clawed at the sky, and the sunlight couldn't pierce their tangled roots. In the distance, I heard the clash of swords and the roar of the crowd, and I woke up screaming, Cornelia. The forest of your dream, it must have been the grove of Appius. I know that place well, Appius. Why do I feel a chill when I hear that name? 'Cause that grove brought shame on many a Roman. Men went there to meet their lovers. Others were taken there against their will. Many a story has that grove swallowed, as many as have perished beneath the blades of the gladiator school. You know, Titus, Cornelia says, if you want to escape those dreams, if the memory of the forest grows too dark, you must go somewhere else, somewhere far away. Go to the sea. There are no forests near the sea. True, but there are birds. Have you ever noticed, Titus, how the birds fly south for the winter, to warmer lands where the fig trees grow and the sun shines all day? That's what you must do. Flee to the warmth. Forget the dark woods in the cold north. Or better yet, why not fly up with them? Soar high above the earth and the shadows. What then would dreams matter in the trees of Appius? They could all turn to figs, and you could pluck them from the branches in the eternal sunshine. And with that, Cornelia falls asleep and dreams of figs. And Titus, well, he stays awake thinking of flying birds, the taste of sweet figs and the distant endless sea. The fountain keeps dripping, and the shadows stretch longer. On the walls, the lamp flickers and fades. And all around us, Rome slumbers, dreaming of aqueducts and legions, triumphs and marble temples, while in the shadowy corners, the wind whispers of dust, of decay, and of nameless ghosts. As the moon climbs higher in the sky, it reveals a chill, stark beauty. The moon, they say, is made of the stuff of bones, and it casts a ghostly pallor over the sleeping city. It bathes the forum in silver, where shadows dance like phantoms among the deserted columns. If the spirits of Rome could roam free, they might haunt these sacred stones, or perhaps they do. In taverns, broken tankards sing with laughter, and the lyre weeps mournful strains. The clack of dice mingles with the slap of cards on worn tabletops, and the dancers twirl and dip to the rhythm of the drum. Outside the city walls, by the Tiber's bank, a lone wolf cries, answering the lonely call of the moon. Beneath the stars, lovers whisper sweet nothings in hidden gardens. The scent of orange blossoms hangs heavy in the humid air, and a stray cat slinks past, its eyes gleaming emerald in the moonlight. Somewhere, a dog barks, startling an old woman from her sleep. She mutters a prayer to the gods of hearth and home, hoping her grandson won't wander too far tonight. She pulls her shawl tighter around her shoulders against the evening chill and closes her eyes, letting sleep take her. Let us leave the eternal city now, for the journey is almost over. We've walked the bustling streets, seen the flickering lamplight, heard the murmurs of lovers and the laughter of friends. We've smelled the sweet perfume of orange blossoms and the rich aroma of roasting meat. We've tasted ripe figs fresh from the tree and wine new from the press. And now, beneath the watchful gaze of the ancient moon, we return home, carrying with us the sights, the sounds, the smells, the tastes of Rome. The sights, the sounds, the smells, the tastes of a city that sleeps, a city that dreams, a city that lives and breathes, a city that endures. Faint sounds of creaking wood, distant shouting, the gentle crackle of a torch. Imagine this. It's still dark outside. It's a kind of darkness that lingers just before dawn, thick and still. Pressing in around the brittle walls of your cramped apartment, the air is close. Heavy with the scent of warm bodies and last night's cooking oil, which still hangs faintly in the rafters. You share this single-room space with 6 others. Your wife, your 2 children, your aged mother, a cousin, a neighbor's apprentice boy who boards here for a few coins a week. There's no privacy, no separation, just a tangle of limbs, cloth and quiet breathing, sometimes snoring. You lie on a straw mat, it's thin and patchy, laid directly on the splintered wooden floorboards of your top-floor unit. The ceiling above groans faintly when the wind brushes against the clay-tiled roof. You never feel entirely safe here, and for good reason. The higher your floor in a Roman insula, the more dangerous your home. Built cheaply and quickly to house the ever-growing city population. These tenements rose high 3, 4, sometimes even 5 stories. The walls are made of clay bricks and timber, often dry as old parchment. Fires are common. So common, in fact, that you sleep lightly. It's always listening for the distant cry of alarm, always half aware of the way the floor might creak or shift. You rise quietly, no sudden movements. The apprentice is still curled near the small brazier, now cold. Your mother coughs gently in her sleep. It's not just age everyone in this building coughs. The soot from nearby bakeries, the smoke from oil lamps, and the general dampness of Roman winters all cling to your lungs. There is no toilet here, no water source. To relieve yourself, you'll climb down the stairs 5 uneven flights and walk out into the alley. There's a communal latrine nearby. You hope it's not already full. Sometimes it overflows. Often it smells unbearable. But you've grown used to that particular blend of rotting food, human waste, and ash. It's the smell of the city, after all. If you're lucky, there might be a vendor already out selling diluted wine or yesterday's flatbread. You can't afford to buy today. Not yet. First, there's work to do.
Ow.
Your job varies by the day. Today, perhaps you'll carry loads of laundry for the Follonica Roman laundries that wash with urine and clay. Or perhaps you'll help at the mill, pushing the heavy grindstone in a dizzying, endless circle to turn wheat into meal. The rhythm of it matches your thoughts, circular, mechanical, numbing. The food you eat reflects your station, mostly grains, sometimes a bit of olive oil. If you're fortunate, some legumes. Fresh meat is rare and expensive. So are fruits. Most days, it's pulse a sort of wheat porridge. It's bland, warm and filling enough. Barely water, too, is a luxury. You might collect it from a public fountain in the neighborhood, but it often runs dry or is crowded. Many simply purchase cheap wine. Instead, it's easier to come by and sometimes safer than standing water. Your clothes are coarse. Wool or linen, stained by labor and wear. Your sandals are worn thin. The streets are not kind to feet paved, yes, but slick with rain and refuse. Mules and carts pass by regularly, splashing through whatever collects in the gutters. There's always noise. From the moment the sun rises over the tiled rooftops, Rome begins to hum, then roar. Metal clanging, people shouting, dogs barking, children crying, carts groaning over stone. It never truly stops, even after dark. You hear it all from your small window, if you're lucky enough to have one. Evenings are your briefest moment of peace. Might visit a nearby Thermopolium, a street bar, for a bowl of beans or a cup of warm wine. There's conversation there, if not always friendly. There's news, rumors, stories. That's how most people learn what's happening in the wider empire. Through mouths, not messages. Then it's back up the narrow stairs, climbing carefully, torchlight flickering on the cracked plaster walls. Back to the small room that barely fits your family. You tuck in close, not just for warmth, but because there's simply no space. You fall asleep to the same coughs, the same groaning beams, and the ever-present scent of smoke and life packed too tightly. Tomorrow will be the same. The rhythm of your life is constant, not dramatic, not famous, but quietly, ceaselessly difficult, and so ends your day. A single thread in the great worn tapestry of Rome, gentle pause. Fading sounds of Roman streets, slowly replaced by the ambient hush of distant wind. Next, we will step away from the alleys and up toward the palace, to witness the rise and the quiet unraveling of one of Rome's most powerful and dangerous women. But first, our next story is about a young girl named Rhea. Rhea lives in a small village nestled between Emerald Hills and the Sapphire Sea. Her days are filled with laughter and sunshine as she skips rope with friends or chases butterflies in fields of gold. But as dusk settles and shadows grow long, fear creeps into little Rhea's heart. For when the moon climbs high in the velvet sky, a haunting howl pierces the air, transforming her lullabies into chilling screams. The villagers cower indoors, clutching rosaries tight, whispering prayers to ward off evil. None know this ritual better than Rhea's grandmother, Yaya Maria. With a heart heavy with sorrow and faith, she would cradle Rhea each night, singing ancient songs that speak of bravery and hope. "Don't be afraid, my precious one," she would murmur, "for even in the darkest night, the sun will rise again." But recently, these nights have been harder, the fear more palpable. For tonight, Rhea's father, the village priest, Father Matteo, must confront the beast that haunts their village. Armed with nothing but his unwavering faith, he steps out into the darkness, determined to protect his family and community. Will Father Matthew face the Lupins tonight? What does the legend tell us about this creature? Join us every day at 8 p.m. as we continue our exploration of the werewolf lore and unravel the mysteries of the Lupin curse. Let's move towards the tale now. The night was alive with dread. No one dared venture outside, their whispers painting vivid images of a terrifying beast stalking the village. The villagers described a creature of nightmares, a werewolf, its eyes glowing ominously in the darkness, its howls echoing their deepest fears. Suddenly, a crash from the forest shattered the tense silence. All eyes turned toward the sound. Fear hung heavy in the air as they waited, hoping against hope that it was not the monster they dreaded. Then a figure emerged from the trees, stumbling, wounded, undeniably human. Relief washed over the villagers as they recognized Father Matteo, their priest, his white robe soiled, his face etched with exhaustion and a dawning horror. He slowly began to speak, his voice strained but resolute. "There is no beast, no werewolf prowling our village tonight. It was I," he confessed, his gaze dropping to the ground. "I was the creature you feared." A stunned silence greeted his revelation. Had their respected priest succumbed to the very evil he'd devoted his life to fighting? The reality was far more harrowing. Father Matthew revealed that he had indeed been battling a monstrous entity, but it was not an external evil, but one that had taken root within him. "For weeks, I felt a growing darkness within me, a primal, bestial hunger," he shared, his voice cracking with the effort of suppressing the turmoil within. "Every full moon, the struggle intensified until tonight, when the beast almost overwhelmed me." His confession hung in the air, heavy with implication. Could there be more like him, their pastor, wrestling with inner demons they could not comprehend? Fear and fascination warred within them. But there was no time for contemplation. Father Matteo warned them that his ordeal was far from over and the battle within him raged still. The full moon hung heavy in the sky, bathing the village in an eerie light, casting long, grotesque shadows that seemed to writhe and twist like tormented souls. The villagers huddled together, sharing anxious glances. The night stretched on, each tick-tock of the old clock tower echoing their mounting dread. Would their priest succumb to the beast, or emerge victorious? Only the night knew the answers. Today, tales of lycanthropy are seen as mere campfire stories. Yet in the annals of history, werewolves were more than just myths. They were symbols of deep-rooted fears, shaping societies and driving beliefs. Our journey takes us back to the heart of medieval Europe, where tales of shape-shifting wolves gripped the populace. The transformation wasn't just physical, it was a descent into savagery, a blurring of the line between humanity and the bestial world. Werewolves were not merely creatures of the night. They were metaphors for the darkness that lurked within us all. The presence fueled a frenzy of persecution. Innocent villagers were accused of embracing the curse, their fates sealed by an irrational, terrified populace. These weren't just stories. They were a grim commentary on human nature, reflecting our capacity for both great love and unspeakable fear. Werewolves became the embodiment of our primal fears, a chilling reminder of the thin veil separating civilization from chaos. This chilling narrative serves as a stark reminder of the depths of human paranoia and the lengths to which fear can drive us. The werewolf, a creature born of folklore, becomes a prism through which we examine our own capacity for darkness and the terrifying potential that lies dormant within us all. So join us as we delve into these chilling accounts, exploring the chilling tales that have defined the werewolf's place in human history. These aren't just stories. They are a reflection of our deepest fears and a testament to the enduring power of the human imagination. Flickering torchlight dances on marble walls. Soft music drifts from unseen musicians. Servants weave between tables piled high with goblets, platters, fresh flowers. Laughter echoes in the vaulted ceiling. A feast for all the senses. And at its heart, you stand in a triclinium. These were dining rooms in Roman townhouses. They combined opulence with practicality, grandeur with intimacy. To dine here was to indulge in luxury, but also to share a moment with friends and family. Furniture was low, allowing guests to lie down comfortably. Wine flowed freely, mixed with water and served in ornate cups. Music and conversation filled the space. A skilled slave might juggle up to 5 plates at once, balancing delicacies above heads and shoulders. Food was brought from the kitchen, prepared by specialized cooks. Silverware glinted, catching candlelight. Guests reclined on couches, pillows beneath their heads, feet propped on raised footstools. Slaves moved among them, pouring wine, serving snacks, removing dishes. A steady stream of dishes appeared and disappeared. Some contained simple fare, bread, fruit, cheese. Others held exotic meats, honey-glazed peacock, spiced boar, flamingo, and aspic. Appetites varied, but so did wealth. Some patrons could afford the rarest ingredients. Others had simpler meals, still enjoyed in fine surroundings. Above them, frescoes painted scenes of love, war, mythology. They added beauty, perhaps also messages, morals, warnings. Even without literacy, images conveyed stories, reminding diners of values, ideals, history. Some houses boasted mosaic floors, tiny pieces of colored stone, creating rich designs. Others had marble floors, polished smooth by countless feet. Acoustics played a role too. The higher ceilings amplified music, lowered voices. Frescoed walls muffled sound, creating intimate spaces. Even architecture had a purpose, holding back walls to frame views, offering glimpses of gardens, fountains, pools. Privacy was a luxury too. Though some homes were open to the public for business deals or political chats, many offered private nooks for quiet dinners, whispered secrets, passionate arguments. Meals weren't just food. They were social events, displays of wealth, subtle boasts. Some patrons dipped their bread in vinegar, showing frugality. Others offered bread soaked in oil and honey, sweetening the deal. Wine was another status symbol. Imports from Greece and Italy fetched high prices. Those who couldn't afford imports diluted local wines, saving money, adding flavor. Silver goblets or bronze goblets made bold statements. Simple clay cups saved on costs. No matter the choice, drinking vessels were more than tools. They were signs of wealth, taste, values. Food itself spoke volumes. Some patrons favored simple meals, bread, cheese, olives. Their choices showed frugality and good sense. Others indulged in extravagance, flamingo, peacocks, truffles. Their feasts dazzled, but perhaps hidden costs. Beneath the surface, the buzz of conversation never stopped. Politics, scandals, gossip, philosophy, poetry, they discussed everything. Some talked business, sealing deals, plotting strategies, negotiating terms. Others debated ideas, testing theories, arguing passions. And some just exchanged news, sharing stories, asking questions, laughing together. Not all interactions were serious. Humor found its place too, witty jests, playful pokes, teasing remarks. Laughter echoed in the atrium, mingling with music and food. Sometimes dinner included entertainment. Musicians played, singers performed, actors acted out scenes, clowns amused, jugglers amazed, acrobats thrilled audiences. Performances wove entertainment into the meal, making evenings unforgettable. Slaves were essential to the spectacle. Some cooked and served, others entertained, sang and danced. Their presence enriched the experience. Without slaves, these lavish scenes wouldn't have been possible. The master of the house controlled the show, chose the menu, managed the servants, hosted the party. His wife and children joined him, forming a family portrait of wealth and leisure. Their interactions revealed their roles, their dynamics, and their tastes. Sons and daughters displayed their parents' values. Whether discussing business or enjoying entertainment, every interaction contributed to the atmosphere. Each scene painted a picture of life in a Roman townhouse. Between the food, music, conversation, and decor, these banquets were more than just meals. They were displays of wealth, taste, and values. They were social events, entertainment, and a celebration of life. They were a glimpse into the heart of Roman opulence. The next segment awaits in the bustling forum where commerce thrived amidst the chaos. Ready to explore the marketplace? Meet me in segment 6, Forum Finds. And until then, feel free to explore more content. And remember, the best is yet to come. See you soon. You wake before sunrise. Birdsong is lost under the din of hammer on metal, the clatter of potter's wheels, and the rhythmic clackety-clack of looms weaving. You smell smoke drifting up through the insulae, the tenement buildings that crowd the Vicolo, the narrow street where you live. Hungry, you stumble out into the crowds, dodging vendors and pedestrians along the crowded Via Sacra. Your family waits for you in the Forum, the center of Roman life, where business is conducted and crowds gather. Your father, a merchant of grain, will haggle over prices. Your mother, her baskets laden with figs, cheese, and bread, will trade gossip with other women. Your little brother will beg for money, and your elder sister, ever watchful, will keep an eye out for a husband who might one day take her away. The sun climbs higher. The Forum bustles. The morning progresses with the pace of an auctioneer. Soon your father will bring you breakfast, perhaps eggs and olives, a crusty piece of bread. But you are too impatient to wait for a real meal. And anyway, you must hurry. Today is the first day of classes. As the student of a rhetoric school, you have hours of study ahead. With your stylus, you will inscribe wax tablets, then race across town to meet your friends at the palestra, the gym, where you'll wrestle and spar until your muscles ache. Afterward, you'll bathe together, scraping your bodies with bronze tools, slapping yourselves with leather straps to purge the sweat-clogged pores, and rubbing yourselves with olive oil. Clean and refreshed, you'll head back to your insula. Already, your mind is racing with plans for the future. Perhaps you will follow in your father's footsteps and become a merchant. Maybe you'll try to make your fortune as an actor. Or perhaps you'll seek fame as an orator, winning cases in court, swaying juries, charming judges with your polished phrases. Tonight, you will debate with your fellow students. Each of you imagines himself on trial before the people of Rome, defending a charge of poisoning or incest. After dark, you will eat dinner, not the groaning board of a patrician, but whatever your mother managed to scrounge together. Still, you are grateful for the scraps that sustain you. As darkness falls again, you will join the crowds gathered at the gladiator games, watching men fight to the death, cheering when the condemned raise their thumbs to the emperor, signaling mercy. As the last man falls, the Colosseum erupts in thunderous applause. When you get home, your dreams will be full of blood. In the morning, life will begin anew. These two vignettes are drastically different. If you are imagining what daily life in ancient Rome was like, chances are that the second scenario, with its talk of gladiators and senators, is the only one you can picture. But here in the first vignette, we see the everyday reality of the great city. We smell the smells, hear the sounds, feel the crush of the crowds. But why? Why am I telling you this? Why take you back to the world of Imperial Rome? I want you to understand something about the way history works. When you read books or watch movies about historical settings, you often encounter idealized versions of daily life. I mentioned the movie Gladiator. It's fantastic entertainment. It's a must-see for anyone interested in the Roman world. But it's not a very realistic depiction of what daily life was like in ancient Rome. It offers a highly stylized, romanticized version of Roman life. Instead of the Forum, the bustling hub of commerce, politics, and civic life, we see the Colosseum, the place of blood and spectacle. Instead of talking about trade or rhetoric, we're talking about swords and shields. In fact, the film makes barely any mention of the most iconic structure in Rome, the most important building in the city, the Roman Senate. What about the poor, the millions of people who crowded into the tenements of Rome, breathing air thick with waste in chamber pots? What about the merchants hawking their wares, the slaves dragging carts piled high with grain, the gladiators training in blood-soaked sand? These people, the ordinary Romans, they don't exist in Gladiator. There's Maximus, the stoic soldier, and Commodus, the crazed emperor. But where are the regular folk? Well, today I thought we could visit those folks. So let's do that. Welcome to my channel, where we bring history to life. Let's start at the beginning. Rome wasn't built in a day, but by the time of the empire, it was pretty darn big. If you wanted to get from one end of the city to the other, you needed a guide. Enter your trusty travel blogger, a Peter. Together, we're going to journey across the ancient city, taking in the sights, sounds, and smells of everyday Rome. Our first stop, the Forum Magnum, or simply the Forum. The Forum was the center of public life in ancient Rome. If you've seen pictures of the Roman Forum, you'll recognize this jumble of crumbling brick and stone arches. But imagine that the ground level is covered in dirt and dust, that pigs and donkeys roam the paths between monuments, that merchants are hawking sausages and figs, that the air is thick with the smell of incense and urine. In this scene, instead of tourists, there are beggars, children, vendors, politicians, and ambassadors. The Forum is the pulse of Rome. Business is done here. Legal proceedings are held here. Civic festivals are celebrated here. It's a meeting place and a marketplace. Nearby the Forum, a 9-acre park called the Campus Martius. Here, athletic competitions were held, diplomatic missions met in secret, and young Roman gentlemen socialized. You can still see the remains of temples and statues from this period. The campus, surrounded by colonnades and shaded by plane trees, would have been a pleasant respite from the bustle of the Forum. Our next stop, the Colosseum. The Colosseum was an oval amphitheater built in the 1st century AD, during the height of the Roman Empire. It could hold up to 80,000 spectators who came to watch gladiatorial combats, animal hunts, executions, and even mock sea battles. Visitors entered the Colosseum through a series of arched corridors that led to rows of seating arranged in a circular pattern. The seating was divided into 5 sections based on social class. The first section was reserved for the most elite Romans. The lower levels of seating were covered and provided shade, while the upper levels were exposed to the elements. Despite its size, the Colosseum was well designed and advanced for its time period. It featured a complex system of tunnels and elevators that allowed for quick exits and entrances. The site of the Colosseum today is much different than it was during the Roman Empire. Much of the structure has fallen into disrepair, and the surrounding area has been heavily developed. However, visitors can still explore the ruins and imagine what it would have been like to attend a public event in ancient Rome. Next up, the Pantheon. The Pantheon was a temple built in the 2nd century AD in honor of all the gods of ancient Rome. It's famous for its concrete dome, which is the world's largest unreinforced concrete dome. In its heyday, the Pantheon was a major tourist attraction, and pilgrims from all over the empire came to see it. However, it fell into disuse during the Middle Ages and was eventually converted into a church. It is now known as the Church of Santa Maria ad Martyrs. and is a popular destination for tourists and locals alike. Our tour of the city isn't complete without a trip to the baths of Caracalla. Built in the 3rd century AD, the baths were a popular gathering spot for the elite Romans, who came to socialize as well as bathe. In addition to the baths themselves, the complex also featured a library, a gym, and a series of shops and restaurants. And last but not least, the Appian Way. The Appian Way was one of the most important roads in ancient Rome, and connected the city to the surrounding provinces. It was lined with tombs and monuments, and was a popular site for picnics and other outdoor activities. Unfortunately, much of the road has fallen into disrepair, and much of it is buried under modern-day Rome. But visitors can still explore parts of the Appian Way that remain above ground, and get a sense of what it was like to travel outside of the city. And there you have it, a whirlwind tour of ancient Rome. But our journey doesn't have to end here. You can continue to explore the rich history and culture of ancient Rome through additional resources. So where will your journey take you next? We hope that you'll join us back here for more adventures in history. See you soon. Soft, ambient tones, as if drifting on a breeze through ancient ruins. And now, the voices of Rome fall quiet. The footsteps fade down the alleyways. The Doma stands still, its shutters closed. The last torch in the insula gutters out, and even the Mithraeum lies undisturbed beneath the earth. What remains are only echoes, gentle, steady echoes carried across centuries, settling like dust on stone. You are here tonight in a city lost to time, buried beneath the weight of empires risen and fallen since the last embers died here. Since the last wineglass was drained, since the last marble cracked beneath a careless footfall. Welcome to the city of ghosts. It's no longer a bustling heart of the ancient world, but a stage for phantoms from centuries past. Here in the dim lamplight, or what would have been the dim lamplight, we can hear them again. The clack of a weaver's shuttle weaving another tunic for the legionary on campaign, the cough of a mother tucking her small son in for bed, his cheeks flushed from a day spent hawking fruit with her. The murmur of senators discussing the latest intrigue at the forum, the squeak of a shoemaker stretching a worn sandal over his knee. These sounds hang in the air, mingling with the scent of myrtle and stale urine, of roasting pig and unwashed bodies, of bread baking and sweat stinging under the midday sun. This is Rome, eternal and yet always ending. The air grows thick as twilight deepens, heavy with the drone of cicadas and the distant chant of slaves pulling at an endless load of stone, hauling it up toward the top of a pyramid that will be long leveled by the time their descendants see their homeland free. Wander down tight, winding streets between tall buildings whose uppermost floors lean drunkenly out over the narrow alleys. A dangerous place when the winter rains come, a place where the sun rarely touches the ground. In the distance, a cat shrieks and a dog barks, answering in kind. The flicker of a torch reveals damp walls, scratched with graffiti and layered in grime. A broken water pipe trickles down one side, staining the pale plaster black. Dripping into a choked gutter where the sluggish flow of waste mingles with rainwater and the discarded scraps of everyday life. Empty olive pits, broken pottery, a tattered scrap of purple wool, a tarnished bronze coin, a single reed, as you pick your way through the ankle-deep muck. Each step threatens to soak your sandals in stagnant water, reeking of stale waste. With every footfall, you disturb more dust motes dancing in the scant light. Swirling around your ankles, coating the buildings in a fine layer of grit, you reach out to steady yourself on a wall, its surface rough beneath your fingertips. How many pairs of hands have rested here before you? How many faces leered out from these shadowed windows across from you? How many voices called out into this very night, laughing, shouting, pleading, crying? How many lives, hopes, and dreams have unfolded within these walls, generation after generation? The passage of time is written in every crack and crevice, every splash of color against bare stone, every bit of litter tossed aside, every stain left by careless feet, each mark a testament to a fleeting moment in an unending story. And yet somehow, in this ceaseless flux, the city finds a strange sort of peace as the moon climbs higher in the sky, casting long. Distorted shadows on the ground below, the wind whispers through the empty streets, rustling through broken window frames, and whistling across the tops of crumbling walls. The sound of rushing water echoes through the aqueducts, carrying the murmur of long-dead voices along its path. Even in the darkest hours, the city seems to hold its breath, listening intently to some half-forgotten tune. As the breeze shifts, it carries with it the scent of jasmine and wood smoke, mingling with the faint aroma of decay that clings stubbornly to the aged stones. The night is alive with the hum of insects, a constant backdrop to the symphony of nocturnal sounds. The occasional bark of a dog, the screech of an owl, the distant clatter of a falling tile, the sigh of the wind as it makes its way through the skeletal remains of a shattered window frame. And above it all, the endless chorus of crickets, their song a timeless lullaby to the sleeping city. As the night deepens, the shadows grow longer and more pronounced, stretching like grasping fingers across the ancient stones. In the darkness, shapes twist and turn, taking on a life of their own. The city's silhouette is a tapestry of light and shade, a constant reminder of the relentless passage of time. The darkness is not empty, though. It teems with unseen life. Bats flit through the gloom, their tiny claws clicking softly against the stones. Pale moths dance around flickering lamplight, drawn to the meager warmth of a long-dead hearth. And in the darkest corners, unseen eyes gleam with predatory hunger. The night is filled with movement, a silent ballet of predator and prey. The scuttling of a rat, the rustle of a field mouse darting across the path, the sudden swoop of an unseen bird of prey. The night is alive with sound and motion, a constant reminder of the primal forces that shape the world. The city is a battleground, a struggle between order and chaos, civilization and the untamed wild. But tonight there is no battle, only peace. The combatants have retreated, leaving the field to the silent victors. The city is at rest. The rumble of chariots has stilled, the shouts of vendors and hawkers have faded, the clatter of hammers on anvil has ceased. Only the murmur of the Tiber and the rustle of leaves break the silence. The city is a tomb, a silent resting place for the bones of centuries past. The echoes of their voices linger, whispers on the wind, fragments of songs and laughter, murmurs of gossip and trade. The city is a museum, a collection of relics frozen in time. The patina of age, the texture of ancient stones, the weathered fragments of sculpture, all speak of a bygone era. The city is a fortress, its ancient walls a bulwark against the relentless march of time. The stones are worn smooth by countless footsteps. The arches and vaults stand firm against the weight of centuries. The city is a sanctuary, a refuge from the storms of the world. Within its silent embrace, there is peace. The city is a memory, a fading dream of grandeur and glory. The echoes of its past glory linger, a reminder of what once was. The city is a ghost, a phantom limb of the empire, forever reaching for a lost greatness. Its silent streets are haunted by the ghosts of its past, whispering tales of a bygone era. And yet, despite its slumber, the city is not truly dead. It breathes in the rustling leaves, the murmur of the river, the heartbeat of the living world. It endures, a silent sentinel watching over the ages. And so you walk alone in the heart of Rome, where emperors once trod. And in the solitude of this ancient place, you find a strange sense of companionship in the ghosts of 1,000 nameless lives. You are just a visitor here, a traveler in time. And as dawn approaches, you know you must leave this timeless place and return to your own world. The sun rises over the horizon, painting the sky with hues of rose and gold. And the first rays of light touch the ancient stones, awakening them from their slumber. As the city stirs from its ancient slumber, you turn away, leaving behind the hushed whispers of the past. The haunting melodies of Rome's ghost linger still, echoing in your heart long after you've left the city of slumber. But now the first light of dawn creeps over the horizon, chasing the shadows deeper into the hollows of the sleeping city. You feel a stirring deep within you, a reluctant response to the call of a new day. It is time to wake from your journey through time. The whispers of ancient Rome echo softly in your ears, a lingering melody of a world long gone. Yet as the first light touches your face, you feel a stirring deep within you, a reluctance to leave this bygone era. But the sun climbs higher, banishing the shadows and waking the city from its eternal night. The haunting melodies of Rome's ghosts linger still, echoing in your heart long after you've left the city of slumber. Soft harpsichord notes fade in. Welcome. Tonight we open a creaking door behind the polished mirrors and slip, gently, through the quiet corridors of a palace not often seen. You've heard of Versailles? Its glittering halls, its endless gardens, its mirrors, chandeliers, fountains, and silks. But what lies behind that illusion of perfection? For every polished floor, someone scrubbed on their knees. For every perfumed monarch, someone carried buckets up hidden stairs. For every whisper of royal power, 100 others held their breath in silence. Tonight we walk not as nobles, but as the ones who made the nobility possible, the invisible class, the silent gears of a golden machine. The servants of Versailles. You won't hear shouts, you won't feel chaos, only the quiet repetition of duty, the soft scuff of shoes on stone. The endless rhythm of lives lived in shadow. So close your eyes, let the chandeliers dim, and imagine yourself not in the palace gardens, but beneath them. Let's begin. Versailles. Long before the sun paints the sky, activity is underway. While most people slept, the palace was awake. The Palace of Versailles, home of the French monarchy, an epitome of absolute power. For 14 years, I have been a humble servant here. My name is Marie-Louise de la Valliere. It's me. Welcome to Versailles, 1705. It is still dark long before sunrise. And already, the corridors echo with soft footsteps and careful rustling. The palace does not truly sleep. It waits and breathes. You are one of over 3,000 servants who live, work, and vanish within the walls of Versailles. But live may not be the right word. You exist. In the margins, you do not have a bedroom. You may sleep beneath a staircase, on a threadbare mat. If you are lucky, perhaps a curtained nook near a service hallway, where the chill of the stone walls creeps through your blanket. There are no stoves for the help, no fireplaces for comfort. Keep your coat on even when you sleep. You rise with the first sound, soft bells, clanking buckets, a cough echoing through stone. Your first task today, water. The king will take his symbolic bath not to cleanse, but to be seen bathing. And someone must carry that water. Boiled in vast copper tubs below, it must be hauled bucket after bucket up for flights of narrow, twisting servant stairs. Each bucket sloshes, each step creaks. You count them. Not because you want to, but because your back already aches from yesterday's count. By the time the nobles arrive to assist the king in bathing more ceremony than cleaning, you are gone. Vanish like mist, invisible as always. After water, there are chamber pots. Hundreds of them. Some rooms have no latrines, so the guests, nobles, ministers, diplomats simply relieve themselves in pots. Or, disturbingly often, in corners of the grand gardens. You are tasked with cleaning what no one acknowledges. Carrying the heavy porcelain basins, emptying their contents into specially designated pits. Sometimes the smell clings. Sometimes the nobles laugh at your presence. Rarely, they thank you. Then it's linen. Everything in Versailles must remain pristine. Curtains, tablecloths, gowns, wigs, napkins, powdered sheets. You collect them, sort them, press them. Sometimes by candlelight, sometimes by freezing moonlight, always in silence. There is no privacy not for you. You may wash yourself in the servants' fountain if there is time. You may eat the scraps from the kitchen if you're high-ranking enough to be near it. And as you work, always there are eyes, other servants, rivals, spies. To advance in Versailles is not about skill, but proximity. To power, to gossip, to secrets. If you know what the Dauphine likes for breakfast before her valet does, you may be promoted. If you report a noble's indiscretion, you may be noticed. But if you offend the wrong person, you may be sent away. No ceremony, no thanks. The hierarchy of servants is its own world. There are the valets personal attendants to the king or high lords, the maids of the bedchamber who may assist duchesses in dressing or merely warm their slippers. There are footmen, porters, pages, laundresses, cooks, stable hands, musicians, scribes, each with their own rules, each watching the others, and all of you. Beneath the surface, sometimes you glimpse power. You see the Sun King himself Louis XIV pass through the Hall of Mirrors. You dare not meet his eye, but you feel it. That warmth, like gravity. But then your gaze drops. Your bucket spills. And you return again to your stairwell, to your hallway, to your quiet, soft harpsichord fades, replaced by distant echo of footsteps through an empty corridor. There are few professions more perilous than being a woman in Versailles. Louis XIV needs no reminder of that. 4 of my ladies have fallen so far. Poisoned, they say, or perhaps pushed. But how many climbed too high before falling? How many were climbing when the music stopped? Who pushed them, and why? I wonder about this as I tend the king's prized roses, pruning, deadheading, pinching back. The roses do not care. They bloom anyway. Soon, the scent of roses mingles with another fragrance, fear. Nobles arrive for the grand levee. Their perfume cannot hide it. The king will receive them one by one, a ballet of bows and etiquette. But afterwards, they seek me out. The king enjoys pleasing his guests. Most of all, he loves beautiful women who make no demands, beautiful women who listen to him alone. He has said as much. Heist tell me so. One day, he may ask for more. What then? Madame de Montespan holds the king's heart, or so we are told. She has borne him children. She has risen above her station. She is dangerous. We are not supposed to look, but we do. To survive here, you must learn who you can trust. And right now, I need to know who saw the men carrying Mademoiselle Fontange's body, still warm, down the palace stairs in the night. I must know who saw her fall and why. Days pass, weeks turn into months. I see nobles arrive and depart. I see courtiers maneuver and fight. All around me, alliances shift like sand. In this place, you are as high as your station allows, and as low. As soon as you falter, as soon as you offend, as soon as you become inconvenient, you will fall without a sound. And yet I hear whispers of a new sound rising in Versailles. Voices have been silenced, but now something else stirs, something dissonant, discordant. Music, strange, haunting notes drifting through the palace halls. The king hates such sounds. Music is his domain. And as the new notes drift into the royal chambers, I wonder who dares disturb the king's repose. Who plays this music? And why I am summoned to the royal sitting room. The king sits on his throne. His face is pale, drawn. Why do I stop? Why is this happening? As always, I bow deeply. You needn't show your face, child. I start. The king gestures to a chair beside his throne. Come, sit. I obey. You know why I have called you? I don't. Ask any questions. I did not send for you to speak. I need no reply. I do not want you to leave this room. Remain here until I call you. I stand, speechless, until you break your silence. I am dismissed and leave the king alone. Alone, he thinks, but he is never alone. Not while I am here. Madame de Montespan and I share a look. She nods slightly. Thank you. We both know who plays that music. That little opera troupe. They make terrible noises. They call it music. You would have silenced them, child. I've thought of that. But no. The king has grown fond of that music. He listens when he tires of us. She touches my arm. Do not fear. The king tires of everything. Nothing stays forever. Even his favorites. Even his mistresses. But right now he is fascinated by these musicians. The opera company. He sends for them daily. Now he asks nothing of me. Does she see me? Am I transparent? Invisible as ever? Or does she think I am listening? Listening to the king. Listening to her. For 2 years, I watched the opera company perform. 2 years of laughter, drama, intrigue, betrayal. 2 years of seeing the king smile when he looks at me. Twice he calls me his little singer. Twice I hear the other nobles snicker. Once the king stops the performance to dance with me. The whole court watches. Then the king leads me to a secluded garden. We dance beneath the trees. I hear him laugh. I hear him say, "You are not like the others." Then, suddenly he grows still. There is a long silence. I do not move. When the king moves away, I return to my duties. Soon, I am summoned back to the garden. The king beckons me closer. I obey. But when I am close, he turns away. As always, I wait. Finally, he speaks. Come to me every night at midnight. Meet me at the fountain. I start. Yes, my king. Every night at midnight, the king smiles. This once I hear him say, then I am gone. I hurry to hide. I have a secret now. I am the only one who knows the king's secret. I have climbed higher than any before me. But as the music swells each evening, I hear a new note creeping in, the sour note of warning. For once you belong to the king, you belong to no one else. And if he wants you silent, you will be. A soft ambient tone, a single violin note held. Then another, then another. The flickering shadow of a candle returns. The palace shifts, as it always does. New faces appear. Old names fade into murmurs. And into this world of powdered hair and high heels, a woman steps who was not born to power, but to the possibility of it. Her name was Jean Antoinette Poisson. But you and all of Versailles would come to know her as Madame de Pompadour, not born into nobility, but into wealth and whispers. Her father vanished, having embezzled money from the crown, and then murdered 2 men who threatened to expose him. Her mother, a former actress, raised her with one clear ambition, to charm the king, and charm him she did. Our story begins in 1734, when Pompadour was 19 years old. She was educated, poised, patient. She read Voltaire. She played the harpsichord. She studied dance, speech, and the precise art of court etiquette. In fact, there is some evidence that she tutored the future Queen of Sweden. But her sights were set higher than any other woman at court, on the Sun King Louis XV. On November 2nd, 1745, at a masked ball in the grand apartments, she finally met him, and everything changed. Louis was immediately captivated. But you'll have to forgive me. Okay, I'm skipping ahead. I am indulging in dramatic license. Just a little. Because while it's true that Louis was immediately struck by Pompadour, the road to his heart was long and winding. And there were plenty of obstacles in her way, like the nobles whose daughters were considered suitable matches for the king, or the fact that he couldn't just leave his wife, the equally formidable Maria Lescinska. But Pompadour was prepared for both. She bribed officials to secure invitations to events where the king might be present. She cultivated a network of allies at court, and she waited. And within weeks, her plan began to unfold. First, her closest rival was called away from court on a diplomatic mission. Then a royal duke decided it would be amusing to publicly criticize the king's choice of mistresses. Louis took offense. And sensing an opportunity, Pompadour wrote back with a cutting rebuke, shaming the duke for his criticism and reminding him of his own shortcomings. It made quite the impression. The duke was sent packing, and Pompadour rose to prominence. Within a few months, she was invited to Versailles. And in the spring of 1746, the king gave her her own apartment right next door to his. Soon after, she was given a noble title, that of Marchioness de Montespan. And finally, at a garden party in June, she was presented at court. The next year, Versailles was aglow with excitement. The king and his mistress were expecting a child, while nobles plotted and schemed over the prospect of a legitimate heir. Pompadour gave birth to a stillborn girl. Undeterred, Louis showered her with gifts, including a jewel-encrusted cradle, and a year later she gave birth to a boy. This time, the Sun King declared that the child looked exactly like him. And so, the long game paid off. Last Louis set aside his queen and settled in with his new family, at least part-time. When his son was born, Pompadour was officially bestowed the title of mistress, not just of the king, but of the entire court's attention. She was at the Sun King's side for the rest of his life, sharing his bed, his table, his time. But what did that mean, really? For Pompadour, it meant never leaving his side, being present at all times, being ready to soothe, amuse, or delight him on demand. It meant smiling through headaches, laughing at jokes she'd heard a dozen times, hosting dinners that lasted until dawn, whether she was tired, ill, or grieving. She was not just a pretty companion. Pompadour was deeply involved in affairs of state. But more on that in a moment. Versailles is not kind to power that does not wear a crown. In the early years, she was ridiculed for her common birth, mocked in pamphlets, caricatured in private letters, accused of manipulating the king, of bankrupting France with her tastes, of stepping far beyond her place. Still, Louis kept her by his side. Despite the gossip, he defied the nobles and named his mistress governess of his children. As his wife was shunted off to a chateau outside Paris and forbidden to have children, the only friend Pompadour ever had was the king. Louis XV, whether he was her lover, her collaborator, her confidant, or simply someone who enjoyed her company. Together, they collected art. They attended plays and ballets. They dined and they danced. As the decades wore on, however, the dancing grew more stilted, the dinners longer, and the plays less enchanting. In 1751, Pompadour had a miscarriage. Then her health began to fail. Coughs that lingered, fevers that returned. She had to cancel dinner parties. She could not attend every function. For the first time, she was seen without the king. But Versailles is not kind to power that does not wear a crown. The queen may have been sidelined, but she remained a potent symbol of authority, and she welcomed the ailing Pompadour back to court with a public snub, refusing to curtsy. To her companion, the king rushed to his mistress's defense, rushing forward to Pompadour's side and forcing the queen to submit. That was the last time Pompadour curtsied to anyone. She was too busy securing her place in history. Over the course of her relationship with the king, Pompadour had outlived 3 of her children. Now, she began planning for the legacy she wanted to leave behind. In the mid-1750s, she opened her home to the philosophes, the leading intellectuals of the Enlightenment. She commissioned painters, Jean-Antoine Watteau, François Boucher, de Fragnard, to capture the glories of Versailles. Playwrights like Marivaux and the architect Richard mired to transform her apartment into a shrine to luxury. When her health allowed, she traveled with the king on his famous hunting expeditions, where she organized competitions between the nobility and made sure they stayed entertained. She hosted enormous dinners for visiting royalty. And when Louis went to war, she oversaw military appointments, advised on policy, and became an essential force behind the throne. While rivals faded from court, she brought artists and thinkers into the royal orbit. She corresponded with and secretly subsidized Voltaire, the man who would write the first biography of her life. She became an expert on architecture and art. She amassed a library of thousands of books. But Versailles is not kind to power that does not wear a crown. Her enemies claimed that she was running France. Rumors circulated that she was poisoning the king, though there is no evidence to support these claims. In 1760, Louis fell seriously ill. Pompadour nursed him back to health and spent the night beside his bed, holding his hand, sharing stories of their life together. He recovered, and soon after, the king rewarded her yet again. He gave her an apartment next door to his, directly connected to his bedroom by a hidden door. Through this entrance, she could slip inside unseen by anyone, even the royal guards. It seemed nothing could shake the depth of their bond. But Pompadour had miscalculated. The king did not want a tomb with her. Beside him, he wanted a mausoleum. While the Sun King still doted on his longtime mistress, their romantic relationship had cooled long before her health failed. And now he married the young and beautiful Countess de Vermandois, a marriage that would make him the talk of Europe. But Pompadour wasn't done fighting for influence. She isolated herself in her apartment for months, refusing to see anyone except her closest friends and confidants. She planned her revenge. Then in 1764, she began to emerge, appearing at fewer events, but making a show of greeting the queen politely, even warmly. She knew how to handle the new woman in the king's life. Versailles buzzed with surprise. Everyone assumed Pompadour had been banished. Instead, she had negotiated a truce. In September, the king came down with a fever. Pompadour tended to him, watching as his condition worsened. She slept in his room, her chair beside his bed, reading aloud, until he drifted into a slumber. She would spend the next 11 days by his side, waiting for him to wake up. But Louis never woke up. On May 10, 1764, he died. Pompadour was devastated. After the funeral, Louis was placed in his tomb alone. No one ever joined him there, not even Pompadour, despite her own failing health. She continued to work, to smile, to greet visitors, to host suppers, to entertain the king's widow, and to raise her youngest son, the illegitimate heir, the one person who shared her blood with the king. But as the years passed, her body wasted away. She refused to eat, saying, "I await my own death." And on April 1765, she was carried into the chapel at Versailles and laid to rest in the family vault beneath the choir. You are touring Versailles today, standing in the very chapel where Pompadour died. Let me ask you something. What did she have to give up? What did she have to endure? What did she have to pretend? to befriend a king, to have a voice in matters of state, to change the course of a nation, to be the most powerful woman in the kingdom without ever wearing a crown. I am the host. Thanks for watching this episode, which was produced by our team in partnership with a museum. Our digital studio produces interactive experiences. Inspired by great works of art, we hope you enjoyed learning about Madame de Pompadour. Low, ambient tones. The faint echo of footsteps on stone. The soft creak of an unseen door opening. You are standing in a hallway at Versailles. It is elegant, immaculate. Lit by golden candlelight, its marble floors gleam, its painted ceilings float far above. But behind you, barely noticeable to the untrained eye, there is a narrow door, flush with the wall, no ornate frame, no markings. Just a keyhole and a silence that invites no questions. You step through, and now you are in the arteries of Versailles. The hidden passages, known only to servants, lovers, and those with secrets to keep. These corridors play an unadorned run behind the grand salons, beneath the king's apartments, and above the halls where nobles gathered. They were not designed to impress. They were designed to manage. To control who sees whom, who hears what, and how the spectacle of royalty unfolds before carefully selected eyes. Imagine yourself moving quietly through one of these narrow passages. The walls are bare stone. The air is cooler here. Footsteps are muffled by worn rugs, laid not for beauty, but for silence. A turn to the left leads you to a back stairwell, used by the king's personal valet to reach the royal bedchamber without crossing the gaze of courtiers. Turn to the right leads to the queen's private salon, accessible only to her trusted inner circle and her children's tutors. Up ahead, another door opens into a false panel in the Hall of Mirrors. From the outside, it appears to be part of the wall's intricate pattern, but from within, it allows a servant to slip in, to relight a candle, or remove a letter without being seen. Versailles was never just a residence. It was a stage. Like any great theater, it had its backstage, where tunnels for coal and water used to supply the palace's many fireplaces and fountains. There were discreet exits for unofficial visitors. Lovers, ambassadors, or courtiers out of favor. Some of these passageways were architectural afterthoughts, but others were deliberate. Louis XIV, the Sun King, had Versailles built not just to dazzle Europe, but to contain the nobility. After years of civil unrest during his youth, he learned a key lesson. A noble kept busy with appearances is a noble who does not rebel. So the court was drawn into endless ceremony, rules of etiquette, precise dress codes, and rituals that filled every hour. But behind those rituals, the palace itself became a machine, and the secret passages were its gears. Modern historians and archaeologists have begun mapping these hidden networks with LiDAR scans and digital reconstructions. Passages once bricked over are being rediscovered. Chambers once forgotten now opened. One such space found behind the Queen's private quarters is a narrow gallery with seating, perhaps a place to read or retreat during a storm. Another deep below the Hall of Mirrors. It may have housed the musicians during large celebrations, allowing them to play unseen beneath the floorboards. In a palace built to display everything, there were entire zones made to hide. Why? Because power, true power, often moves in silence. And as you walk back through the passage, emerging once again into the golden glow of the visible world, you realize that nothing in Versailles was accidental. Even what you do not see was carefully placed. Faint return of courtly music, footsteps slow and measured. And now, as the secret doors close quietly behind you, we rise once more into the most visible performance of all. The grand rituals of royalty, where every gesture was watched, where waking up and falling asleep were not private acts, but carefully choreographed displays of monarchy. A gentle wind carries the scent of jasmine through an open window, mingling with the soft glow of lamplight. You find yourself in a library bathed in twilight, surrounded by centuries of stories, leather-bound tales that whispered secrets across generations, their pages filled with dreams and destinies. Each book a universe unto itself, inviting you to lose yourself within its depths. The air is thick with the scent of old paper and untold adventures. This is a sanctuary where imagination knows no bounds. There's an invitation in every corner, to step into worlds unknown. There's also a comment box down below where you can share your thoughts, your reactions, and even the stories you want to hear next. Your voice can become part of our shared journey through history, culture, and ideas. Your comments shape the narrative, making sure our exploration never feels like a solitary one. And as always, for those seeking a deeper dive into the past, additional resources await. So don't hesitate to reach out. If there's something you'd love to learn more about, there's always more to discover. More connections to be made in the tapestry of our shared human story. It's like having a conversation across the ages. Talk, you listen. You talk, we listen. Together, we build a bridge across time, making sure the stories don't just echo, they resonate. So feel free to add your voice to the mix. Your feedback is the North Star guiding us in our storytelling journey. And remember, every story has a new chapter waiting to be turned. So keep commenting, keep exploring. Who knows what treasures of knowledge we'll uncover next? The final chords of a harpsichord resonate through the gilded hall, slowly fading into the plush velvet upholstery and heavy oak paneling. Outside, the night has deepened, the twinkling stars mirrored in the polished marble floors. Within these four walls, 18th century France comes alive. Amidst the dim oil lamp lighting, the murmur of voices discussing the latest news from the courts. This salon is a stage where ideas dance and fortunes are made or broken. Fashionable men and women, the elite of Paris society, gather to discuss art, philosophy, and politics while sipping their wine. They converse in hushed tones, aware that every word carries weight. Their laughter echoes with hidden meanings, their smiles with secret agendas. Tonight, the topic turns to the upcoming royal ballet at Versailles. The talk is not just about the spectacle, but who will be favored by the king, whose reputation will shine brightest in the royal court. The dancers may pirouette and leap, but it's here in the salon that the real performance unfolds. Yeah, gossip is currency, and reputations are everything. Every well-placed remark moves the pieces on the societal chessboard, each conversation advancing a silent game. The fate of many hangs in the balance, unseen by all but the sharpest eye. For here, in this intimate theater of the mind, the boundaries of politeness mask cutthroat ambition. Beneath the charm and wit, minds as sharp as swords parry and thrust. Loyalties shift like the sands of time, and the subtlest jest can wound as deeply as any blade. As the evening deepens, so does the intrigue. Portraits of former favorites hang on the walls, a silent reminder of shifting tides. The faces of those who rose and fell whispered tales of hubris and despair. The company grows restless, sensing that the night is young and the game has only begun. Each guest eager to be the star in their own story, they play their parts flawlessly, hiding the turmoil that rages within. The chime of a pocket watch pierces the quiet, pulling them back to the present. It's time to depart, each person retreating into the night, carrying secrets in their wake. Silhouettes against the lamplight, they vanish into the darkness. Only the faint echo of their laughter remains, hanging in the air like smoke. Welcome to the final segment of our journey through time. As the clock strikes midnight, our adventure draws to a close. Let us take a moment to appreciate the echoes of the past that still resonate within these ancient halls. The spirit of royalty lingers, whispering tales of grandeur and opulence. These four walls hold centuries of laughter, intrigue, and the clinking of glasses echoing through the vast chambers. As the moon climbs higher in the sky, let's pause to consider the lives that unfolded within these very rooms. The footsteps of kings and queens still seem to tread the marble floors, their presence haunting the gilded mirrors. In the dimly lit corners, we can almost see the ghosts of courtiers, engaged in lively debates or plotting in hushed whispers. Can you feel their gazes upon us as we explore the remnants of their world? Time seems to stand still in this hallowed space. The ticking of the grandfather clock reminds us of the relentless march of time, while the heavy velvet curtains conceal secrets whispered in the shadows. The ornate chandeliers cast dancing shadows on the walls, creating an ethereal atmosphere that envelops us in the past. Here, amidst the grandeur, let's reflect on the fleeting nature of power and the weight of legacy. The Sun King's reign may have ended, but his shadow still looms large over these halls. What would you change if you had the chance? What echoes from the past would you amplify? Share your thoughts, your musings, and your regrets in the comment box below. Your voice has the power to add another layer to the rich tapestry of our shared history. Don't hesitate to speak your truth. Together, we can keep the stories alive. As the night deepens, we find ourselves drawn to the grand staircase, its sweeping elegance a final spectacle before departure. The soft glow of candlelight flickers on the polished banisters, inviting us to ascend into the heart of the palace. With each step, we ascend into the realm of royalty. It's a place where power and prestige once intertwined in an intricate dance. Can you imagine the grandeur of royal processions ascending these very stairs? Kings and queens, resplendent in their finery, making their entrance as the court watched in awe and anticipation. The high-stepping courtiers followed closely behind, their voices hushed in reverence. As we turn the final corner, the sight that greets us steals our breath away. Before us lies the throne room, its opulence rivaling the heavens themselves. Sunlight streams through stained glass windows, painting the marble floor in a kaleidoscope of colors. The very air crackles with the echoes of power. Ah, the throne. Its grandeur overwhelms, adorned with intricate carvings and symbols of royalty. Here, emperors were crowned, their destinies intertwined with the weight of legacy. The throne stands as a silent sentinel, bearing witness to centuries of triumphs and tragedies. As we stand before its majesty, let's ponder the meaning of power, the burden of legacy, and the complexities of the human experience. What do you admire about the opulence that surrounds you? How does it make you feel to stand at the epicenter of royalty? And what emotions stir within you when you contemplate the lives of those who once graced these halls? Pour your heart out in the comments section. Your feelings are threads in the tapestry of our collective memory. Together, we can weave a richer understanding of the past. The flickering flames of a dying fire paint dancing shadows on the vaulted ceilings as the final moments of our journey approach. As the embers glow, so too does the memory of a bygone era. The warmth of companionship lingers, a comforting reminder of shared experiences and new friendships forged across the ages. The time has come to bid adieu to this majestic realm. With heavy hearts, we retrace our steps, leaving behind the echoes of kings and queens. Yet as we depart, we carry within us the essence of Versailles. Let's whisper our final thoughts, our reflections, and our hopes for the future into the void. Our voices, though fading, become part of the palace's tameless tale. Remember, history doesn't end here. It lives on in each of us. The spirit of Versailles shall forever reside in our hearts, a testament to the enduring allure of the past. Until our paths cross again in some forgotten corner of history, farewell. Soft, ambient tones, distant birdsong, as if echoing through an empty marble corridor. And now, Versailles sleeps. The silks are folded, the candles have burned low. The great gates once watched so closely, now stand quiet beneath the stars. What remains is stillness and memory. Tonight, you walk not through the grand galleries of Versailles, but through its shadows, not in the footsteps of kings, but alongside the quiet ones. It's the ones who woke before the sun, who worked while the nobility posed, who slipped between walls, unseen and unheard. You have stood in the stairwells, waited in the antechambers, and felt the hush behind the performance. You glimpsed the world of Madame de Pompadour, its ambition, its pain, its refined pressure. You passed through hidden corridors, where power moved in whispers and footfalls, and you observed from a safe, gentle distance the rituals that turned daily life into theater, where even waking and sleeping became symbols of control. And now, as your own eyes grow heavier, there is comfort in the contrast. You do not sleep in a hallway. You need not wake to carry water or bow before a bed. No bell will ring in the darkness. No powdered figure will appear demanding a shoe or a secret. You are here in stillness and peace. And as the rhythms of Versailles fade, its voices slipping away like echoes behind gilded mirrors, you can rest, knowing the stories will wait. For tomorrow or the next night, history is patient. It is always there, beneath the surface, ready to unfold again. Softly, thank you for joining us tonight. On Boring History for Sleep, close your eyes, breathe deeply and drift. Versailles has vanished into quiet, and so can you. Good night, and sleep well. Silence. than only the faint hum of a resting world.